Well, hello there. So I'm going to be giving you two important tips that go hand in hand that will help you achieve windmills that don't stall in between them. And I'm also going to be offering a few more tips that should help you do so. So I'm going to first start with this clip right here. Just take a look at this clip.
Starting, go.
Okay, that beginning tip.
Kind of.
This clip was me 10 months ago doing windmills. And as you can see, I'm guessing I should have had the same problems you're having right now in this video. As you can see, my legs are bending, my hips aren't very high, and exactly the question you're having, every single time I roll back into my stab, I end up pausing for a while before I go into my next windmill. So this here is a clip of my current windmills taken like a few weeks ago. Alright. And so as you can see, what happens is that several steps you have to take in order to get to that point in which you don't stall anymore. So here are the two things. The first is getting a consistent 1-2, 1-2 motion with your body. So your legs have to kick one after the other. It's never both legs at the same time. It's always one after the other. And that is important. You have to swing both legs, you have to keep them straight, and they must be swung to like a full range of motion. And I'm going to demonstrate that in a while. The second point is having an appropriate motion with the upper body. And I'm going to explain the significance of the roll just in a second. So the first thing we're going to cover is the 1-2, 1-2 motion. Like, each leg plays a role in your windmill. Now you're going clockwise, but I'm going counterclockwise. However, I'm flipping the video and I'm reversing my lefts and rights, so it's going to look clockwise to you. Now, as you can see, I'm using my right arm, so with my right arm, several things happen. For the first stage, when I go from the top to the bottom, I'm sweeping with my right leg. See? But at this point, I reach the point in which my right leg can't go any further, right? So at this point, I'm using my left leg and really sweeping it to get back into my stab. So here's an example of what happens when you sweep powerfully. By the time I get here, both my legs are spread out over here already. That's what happens when you're trying not to lag. When you're lagging, you're not sweeping your legs quickly enough so that by the time you get to the stab, your legs are still back here. So that's why you are taking time to get them over here and ready to go for another round. Okay, the beginning tip.
Kind of.
In this case, like the beginner windmills I had 10 months ago, it's like I managed to connect, but I don't have enough momentum to go directly into the second round of windmills. You're going to have to fix this just by practicing, and eventually your legs will get stronger so that you can get a consistent 1-2, 1-2 motion. Now just to show my point, I'm going to do a bunch of windmills, and I'm going to call out 1 every single time I'm sweeping with my right leg, and 2 every single time I'm sweeping with my left leg. And you're going to see that they play separate functions, as I just described earlier. So let's go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And yeah, you want to practice so that your legs get stronger and you're able to keep your legs straight. That's the first thing. Alright, now the second thing is, what do you do with your arms? I'm going to break down what the windmill really is. So I'm lying on my back, just with my legs together. And when I windmill, I am rotating this way, right, towards my left. So that's nice and all, but this isn't a windmill. This is me rolling across the floor and looking down. But let's say, what happens when you roll with spread legs? Now when you're rolling towards your left, you can't keep going. Like, you're not going to just pick up and keep rolling that way. Instead, you end up moving in a circle, right? So that's what really windmill is. You use your legs in order to help you across, but your upper body, the fundamental of that, is actually rolling. Rolling towards the left, while your legs spin clockwise. So, I covered before in the previous session, 1, 2, 1, 2, this is what you're doing with your legs. But your upper body must do something appropriate so that you can continue to go from one mill to another. And there's several ways to practice that. Like, really what you're doing is, rolling is actually the fundamental of doing stuff like forearm windmills, barrel windmills, because you're twisting your torso in order to cause your body to go back onto the floor, right? But this is still applicable to a certain extent in stab windmills. Unless you're learning windmill from a teacher, you've probably seen the tutorials. And how all the tutorials are like, you're supposed to push a bit using your left arm in order to help you towards the ground. Well, repeat it. Practice going into the stab and immediately pushing off the stab using your left hand. And by practicing this, you will get something more like something, like you see, really more continuous. You want to always be going on and off your stab. This is why you have to learn both of these steps. Getting the appropriate thing with your legs and getting the appropriate thing with your hands. Like, good windmills in which you never stop, they're accomplished because when you make one full round, but by the time you're ready to get into a second windmill, your legs are fully ready to do their second round. As I've said before, if your legs lag, then you're waiting after you reach your stab to get ready, because you're still twisting that way. But conversely, if your legs are getting there, but you're not used to falling off your stab again, that's also a problem, and that might be why you are stalling. So, to conclude, you need to practice both of them, but you also need to drill the individual aspects. You need to just practice windmills as a whole to improve your muscle memory and your coordination of your body so you can combine the two together. But individual aspects, such as powerful sweeps and straight legs, are things you can kind of drill individually. Like, do one really strong one windmill, or you can just practice, maybe even against the wall, rolling into and out of stabs. So these two put together, they're just going to take effort and time. There's no silver bullet that's going to get your windmills fast and really continuous like that, but if you practice these two individually and together, it should make continuous windmills that just go without stalling easier for you to do. Finally, I'm going to cover a bunch of tips and smaller things that can make your windmills better. I've asked you the question before, have you seen a bunch of the most popular tutorials on YouTube for windmill? And your answer is probably yes, and you've probably seen the ones in which they're all like, keep your head close to the floor. And the second one is, pump your hips up to get height. And their reasoning for pumping your hips up is that it allows you to restat. But there's a second reason we do this. We do it so that it gives us more time to cycle back for another round. Like, I'm learning barrel mills right now, and one of the tips that really helped me is the pump with the hips. Because now I pump and it helps me get on my head, which gives me more time for me to use my right leg and go for another round, right? So that is exactly why these two go hand in hand. You actually can't follow one but not the other. If you're keeping your head like this, then by default, your hips are on the other side of your body. So your lower body is going to be low, but your upper body is going to be high. That's never desirable, so you want to always have it the other way around, like this. So just as a demonstration of, like, even if you're not using your head, it's always advantageous to keep your head somewhere closer to the ground and pumping your hips maybe just a little bit. I mean, it's something you're going to probably do eventually as you moved on to head mills and maybe forearm mills, any type of non-stab windmill. You're eventually going to want to do this. And, oh yeah, one last observation. Windmills that go really fast tend to be less high, but the windmills that are really high are generally a bit less fast. You see those people who are doing barrel mills on YouTube, and they're not really going that fast, but they're really high up, like almost in like head spin height, just a little slanted down, and you're wondering just how does it work? And sometimes you see people doing like fast windmills, but their hips are actually lower down. It's the difference between like this in that case, I purposely didn't keep my head close to the floor, and I let my forearms do all the job. It was hard. I had to, by the time my forearms got there, I really had to swing my legs really fast in order to make it for another round. So I'm like, gotta make that next twist, gotta swing my legs really hard. But on the other hand, there are the slower but really high windmills that done with the head, and I'm going to demonstrate a few right now. Maybe they're not really high, but what happens is I'm using my head, and I'm pumping with my legs. So what happens is that my hip is higher, and I get to focus more on swinging my legs, because I'm having more space to do so. So, just as a recap of everything I've taught, 1, swinging the legs fast and also straight, in a good motion, 1, 2, 1, 2, so that every single time you're trying to get from top to bottom, you're using your left leg, your right leg, and when you're trying to go from bottom to top, you're using your left leg. And this motion is something that's actually pretty hard for people to get. Like, that's why people are sloppy at it at first, because when we learn the initial kick, we always learn how to just bring your left leg up and then swing your right leg under, and just hope this gets you into your restab. Well, in reality, we really need to use our left leg more. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, as I said, making a continuous motion to get on and off the restab. And when you're doing like non-stab windmills, torquing in order to get back onto your back. And that what you should take away from this is put the two together and you'll be successful with hard work and just practicing more to get the muscle memory. And the last thing is, just as a tip, if you keep your hips high and your head lower, it can help you out. Hope I've helped you, and you should post some progression videos so I can give some advice, comment on them, just see how it helps you out. Enjoy.